Hey there, welcome to my channel, Texas Gal Treasures. My name is Margaret. If you're new here, you're going to get to learn a little bit about me today because I'm going to share with you my 5 secrets to success. And I would have to say that these are the things I did sit down and really write these out because I was trying to get to the bottom of what has made me so successful in any area that I have attempted. And I really felt like it was important to share these with you. I did struggle with the 5th one, but I realized that the 5th one is one that I think would probably be the most important because it is the one that I get asked the most questions about. I get the most private messages and emails about. And I feel like this is the one that can be make or break for people. So definitely stay tuned for number 5. If you're new here, let me give you a little of my backstory. Maybe you've been watching for a while and you don't know. I used to be an elementary school teacher. I taught for 15 years. And when my eldest child started kindergarten, I had the opportunity to stay home so I could be a supportive mom. Not that you can't work and be a supportive mom. I wanted to be able to be there and go and volunteer at the school and all of this stuff. I pretty quickly learned that I am not a stay-at-home mom kind of lady. I also was in a situation where I would have to ask for money, and that was really a challenge for me. I grew up and just with a very strong matriarchy in my family, letting me know like, hey, it's very important to be able to have your own money. It's very important to not be in a situation where you don't have freedom because somebody else has all the control with the money. I found myself in a situation very similar to that. It was surprising that it happened to me. I learned pretty quickly that having to go and ask my now ex-husband for money just for a coffee became a very stressful task. So I determined this is not how I'm going to live my life. I wasn't just a sit at home and make brownies kind of girl anyway. So I started reselling. I didn't even realize at the time that this was something that people did. I didn't know about the world of reselling on YouTube. And honestly, at that point, this is about 10 years ago, there weren't that many resellers on YouTube. There are now, but there weren't that many back then. There were 20 maybe at the time. So I didn't even realize it was a thing. And I was like, is this legal? I don't know. Like seriously, I was like questioning morality and all of this. And I was just going to garage sales, flipping used things that I would find at garage sales. Slowly, I started learning because nobody in my life did this. I had no clue about anybody doing this. I started the YouTube channel because I started diving into as I was researching reselling. I didn't even know it was called that at the time. I started seeing some reseller YouTube channels pop up. I'm like, ooh, this is something people do. Okay. So I started the channel too because I didn't want to keep boring the people in my life with like, oh my gosh, look at this cool thing I found. I got this thing and I sold it for blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I made $50 and isn't that exciting? People are like, that's great. So it started there and it snowballed to the point where with all the things that I was doing, not just reselling, but print on demand and creating YouTube videos and all of the different things that I was putting my fingers in, I was finally able to support myself and my children and leave this marriage that was not making me very happy. I really am very passionate about sharing this story. There's way more to my story than that, of course, but it is super important to me that there isn't anybody in this world that cannot live the life that they want because somebody else is holding the purse strings. If I can do it and get myself out of that situation and now be where I am, where I'm able to live this life where I homeschool my kids, we can take road trips, we can do all of these fantastic things, and I can support us based on these different things that I'm doing. If I can do it, anybody can do this. I didn't have skills with reselling or skills with making videos. I didn't have skills for print on demand, and that's for sure. All of the different things that I do to make money is all stuff that I learned. I didn't go to college for this. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have somebody teaching me and telling me every step of the way. It was something that I had to figure out as I went along and learn from my mistakes and just get better over time. So if I can do it, you can definitely do this. I wanted to share that, and I wanted to share what I believe my 5 secrets to success are, because you can do this too. The first secret I have is optimism, is my optimism. And if you watch this channel, you probably know this already. I try to keep pretty positive. There are times when I dip down, and I get real about that too. But I think that my optimism, knowing that I can have a positive outlook on whether things are going well or whether things are going bad. Even if I dip, I'm pretty quick to bounce back. I've trained myself to not, I notice that slippery slope. And once I feel it, and I see my mind or my physically start going down that slippery slope of depression or negativity, I'm real quick to check myself, because it can, if you let it slip too far, it can really snowball and be a lot harder to get out of. So whether I'm out thrifting, or whether I'm creating a YouTube video, or whether I'm learning a new thing, I am super optimistic about being able to learn it, being able to be successful at it, just having that mentality of I can do this. This is, yes, it's hard right now, but it's going to be easier. And you know why I know that? Because I have the proof of it. When I started reselling, wasn't very good at it. My shipping was horrible, and I got returns, and things were broken. But I know that with learning from these mistakes, that I got better and better and better. And being able to do that over and over and over again with shipping, with my titles, with my photos. My photos are horrible. I mean, with every single aspect, videos, even my early videos, terrible. I look back and like, no wonder people are like, it's too shaky. I can't watch. I'm getting nauseous. Like, yeah, me too. But getting better over time. So knowing, and I think most of you, if you really took time to look at that for yourself, even if you feel like, oh, this is so hard, I can't do it. That kind of talk, you got to nip it. Look back at what you've done. And because I think too, so many of us look forward like, oh, here's this goalpost we have for ourselves. It seems so far. It seems so like it's so much. But how many of us are turning around and looking back at how far we've actually come, and how many things we've actually accomplished, and how many things we've been successful at? So taking a moment, I mean, you don't want to spend too much time in the past, but take a minute to turn back and like, hey, I did that. That's really great. So I think that positivity and that optimism is a really big secret to my success. Unfortunately, there are so many people in the reselling and probably in every industry. Well, yeah, when teaching too, that just no matter what, they're just negative. But you just, if you really want to be successful, you just have to take that bull by the horns and ride that puppy into positivity land. Couldn't think of anything cuter. All right. Next, my second secret is my tenacity. And that I sort of touched on in this one. My tenacity is that things don't always come easy, but not giving up is huge. So whenever, as I said, I really wanted to do well. It was very important. I was very motivated to make money, because in the beginning, I just wanted to be able to go to literally buy coffee and not have to ask my husband at the time for money, because it always turned into money for this, money for that. And it just became a big power struggle. And I never was that kind of person. So it was very motivating for me to make money, even if it was just $200 a week. That's what I wanted, $200 a week. So I have money to go take the kids for an ice cream or do this or do that without having to ask permission. I'm a grown woman, right? So very motivated to get this. So I was determined. That's where that tenacity comes in, that determination to improve and get better every single step of the way. Even if it was tiny improvements, I would go and dive into, and I did. I took it piece by piece. Okay, I'm focusing on my photos. Let me see. How do people do this? Research, right? Okay, now my shipping. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's figure out, how do people do this? All right, research. Every step of the way, that tenacity and not giving up is huge. When I was learning print on demand, I am not a graphic designer. And that's what I kept telling Joe and Glenn and Young and all these guys that kept telling me, you need to do this, Margaret, you need to get on this. And I'm not a negative person, but I just kept saying, I'm not a graphic designer. And they're like, it doesn't matter. Okay, fine. So I had to learn every step of the way how to create these shirts, these print on demand things. And it made so much money for me, especially when I was really focused on it. Yeah. So having that tenacity, not giving up, huge. So even if you have a setback, I'll give this example. When my nephew was here, we had just moved into the house. My nephew and one of my kids were putting together a shelf for over the bathroom. I gave this to them as a project to handle. Nephew is 10, 11, and my son is 13. But they really struggled with this. And I am such a firm believer in not giving up that I told them, I get it. This is hard. I mean, they were both at that point of like almost tears because it was really hard. It was. But I just said, you know what? We're not giving up. Take a break and we're going to come back to it. I mean, that's what happens when I get to something that's really hard and it's a roadblock for me, talk about taxes or whatever. I do as much as I can till I'm at that frustration point, and then I have to walk away. But I know I'm not giving up. I'm not giving in. I'm going to come back when I'm ready to look at it again. So that's what we did. And by the end of it, they were so proud of themselves that they did this, and I would not let them give up. That's a lesson I really want my kids to learn. And I want you to learn it too, if you don't have it already. My next secret is resourcefulness. That would be my ability to not just throw my hands up in the air. Some of these kind of tie together, or I'm running each other over it. I don't just throw my hands up in the air and say, this is too hard, or, this isn't working. So I'll use print on demand as an example. When I was creating things for print on demand, I didn't have money to pay for graphics or pay for sites that I could use their fonts or this and that. And I had to really dig and get resourceful for places that I could use free images or free fonts or, programs that I could create. Because there were places where you could pay for templates and you just had to change this, you had to change that. But I would get resourceful because I didn't have the money to use to spend on that. Because at the time I was still married, and every dime I was bringing in was very precious to me. So I didn't want to have to spend money on that. And a lot of the things I'd spend a lot more when I go out garage selling and thrifting now. But at the time I had maybe $40 that I would allow myself to use to go spend. And that was it. And I would make money off of that. And then instead of using all the profits, I would use that $40. I would set it aside again. I would just be really resourceful with the other things that I would get. And I did start having people that I knew, like, hey, you're reselling. Okay, I have all this stuff from my grandma. You want it? Because we were just cleaning out. Sure, I do. Finding ways to make it work with what you've got is huge. Finding ways around, there's always going to be the easiest path, but it can't always work especially if you have to pay for it, or if there are obstacles in your way. But there's always a way. If you are resourceful and determined and optimistic, you can find a way to solve your problems and to get where you want to get. My fourth secret to success, this is another one that I think I was back and forth between this one and number 5 about which one you're not going to like. Number 4 is one that maybe some people won't like, and that was priorities. I prioritized this. My kids are a priority. And then this, being able to build something where I'm making money. I didn't even see it that way at the time, building something that I built. But at the time, my priority was, I need to make money, and I need to be able to figure out how I can make enough money to support me so I can get out of this marriage. And that was huge. So that priority came above everything else. So if somebody was like, hey, did you watch such and such last night? No. I was listing, photographing, making videos. I mean, it was something, I mean, now I don't have to be as tenacious about like this. I have to prioritize work, because that fulcrum of need is not as great. So I'm able to ease up a little bit on that. But when I did, it was a priority. I didn't watch stuff. I stayed up late. I still do. Stay up usually till midnight, 1 o'clock working, whether on videos, print on demand, editing, whatever, listing. I made it a priority. So if this is something, depending on that push of the necessity of it, if you really are like, I have got to get some money, that's going to be the priority. You're not going to take a moment, you know what, let me just go binge watch a little bit. You're going to make it a priority to list or photograph or research or do all of these things or find something else, like keep digging to find something else to help bring in income. It'll be a priority. And I did. I mean, there were days, this is before I started homeschooling, there were days where I would create 40 plus, and this is when you could only upload one at a time on Merch by Amazon, print on demand. You can only upload one thing at a time, one shirt, then one sweatshirt. And there were days where I would do 40 to 100 designs. Now that seems like nothing, but at the time that was it. And all day, that's what I did. Shirt, design. And that's, I just made it a priority. All right, the fifth one, again, this is one that some people may not like, and you may not realize my reasoning at the time, but it is self-reliance. The reason that I think some people won't like it, and when I say self-reliance, I mean knowing that you did it and you figured it out, and you were the one to go and find the answers and research it and look into it, and you're resourceful and you're just diving deep. I was going back and forth between self-reliance and curiosity, having that curious mind about everything, because when I am doing these things, whether it's reselling, print on demand, YouTube, learning all of these different things, even if it's diving into how to know how to sell sound bowls or jewelry, or I have people ask me, how'd you learn so much about this and that and the other thing? Because I research everything. If I have a piece of jewelry and it's got a maker's mark on it, then I dive deep to find out as much as I can about that. Now, I get that sometimes it can be too much. You don't want to spend an hour researching every single thing that you're picking up. But when you've got things that are really making you good money, and there's things that you really want to learn a lot about so that you can be more efficient when you're out reselling, it is really important to be self-reliant, to know how to figure things out on your own, and have that curious mindset where if you see something really cool and you're like, that looks interesting, I wonder what that's all about, go and look it up. The reason I say a lot of people might not like this is because probably the number one theme in the emails and private messages I get are, I have this thing, how much is it worth? What is it? Can you help me sell it? Can you? And they don't want to do it on their own. I get that that's another method of like trying to figure it out, but emailing me or typing it into Google, you're going to get a quicker response from Google, and just doing it yourself and figuring it out. And then when you go down that rabbit hole, if you come to me, and even if I don't normally answer this, but even if I did give you an answer, that's just like my take on it. And if you Googled it, then you've got a wealth of information, things that maybe I didn't know, or different price points, or hey, keep this in mind, or hey, keep that in mind. So many more things that you could learn. And when you're doing it yourself, you are embedding it into your brain. So there's that, having somebody tell you and having learned it and then teaching it. And I would say teaching it is, you're teaching yourself when you're looking it up. So it's going to stick so much better if you're out there looking it up and figuring it out, and then if you have a channel or you have somebody else that you're doing this stuff with, share, because then that's going to make that neural pathway, we'll get into some deep stuff, even deeper, because you have taken the initiative and you are having that determination to go and do it and figure it out on your own. And that's not to say that you can't learn things from videos or, because I did. When I was learning my YouTube stuff or different ways to improve, but to message one person and to say, hey, how do I sell this? I've got this box, I get this one all the time. I've got this box of jewelry from my aunt, my grandma, my this, my that passed away. I've got this whole box of jewelry. I don't know what to do. Well, I don't usually respond, but you should pick up one piece, you look at it, see if it's got a name, type it in, figure it out. I know some people want a shortcut, but sometimes there's not a shortcut, and it's just that learning, and it can be grueling, but it can be really rewarding. So, messaging me and saying, how did you sell all those comics? I have a box of comic books, how did you do it? I answered that one. I was like, I picked up a comic book, I typed it in, and I looked to see what it said, how much it sold for. And I took pictures and then I put it on eBay. That's just the way it is, unless you are going to take it to a comic book store. But that's the thing. There's so many options that if you just ask me, I may give you one option. If you look it up, you may get 20 options. So be self-reliant, resourceful, determined, optimistic, and most of all, have fun. And you can do it. And I believe in you. I hope that you resonated with some of these. If you have more or other things, other tips for people that are trying to get success, then leave a comment down below. And I would love to read your secrets to success. So if you've got some that you would like to share, please leave those in a comment as well. And I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.